Ever since I got my AtGames Legends pinball, I've been playing it for hours a day to really get a feel for it before I upload a review. But one thing became abundantly clear. I didn't have anywhere to put my drink. Now, I didn't want to put it to my left and set it on my Pac-Man Partycade for fear of spilling it in the control panel, and I didn't want to put it to my right and set it on one of my THX speakers. So I basically did what I had to do. I bought a cup holder.
A small price to pay for salvation.
In this video, I'm going to tell you where I got it and how to install it because it wasn't as cut and dry as you might think. So I managed to find a seller on Etsy that sells these 3D printed cup holders for full-size pinball as well as Arcade1up and AtGames pinball. And they are $15 and it costs $5.25 for shipping, which is very reasonable. So the seller's store is called Jack's 3D Prints, and as you can see, he's got over 260 5-star reviews. Now, the important thing is you want to make sure that you pick the right style before you purchase one of these. So you want to go to select a style. They've got standard full size, Arcade1up, and AtGames. If you want to buy one for AtGames, make sure you pick that. And the reason that you want to do that is because each one is slightly different. So it says here, there's a disclaimer that says for the AtGames, you will need to replace your stock leg bolts with slightly larger ones to accommodate for the spacers. 1.5 or 2-inch bolts work well, and I'll talk about the bolts I use here in a minute. So when you open up your kit, what you're going to get obviously is first your cup holder, and it looks really nice. Now if you're familiar with 3D printed items, they all have these kind of lines or ridges. These are actually not that bad, and there's no sharp edges anywhere. I didn't have to file anything down. It was actually very nice and very smooth, very good quality. Okay, the next thing, that's in here is it's going to be like a little message here saying thank you, please leave feedback from William at Jack's 3D Prints. You're going to get a little Jack's 3D Prints business card. And here we got the 2 spacers. These are 1/2-inch spacers that are 3D printed, as well as 2 washers. So here is the stock bolt that comes with the AtGames pinball. It's a 1-inch hex bolt with a kind of a raised head. Now, the reason it's not going to work is because by the time you put these 1/2-inch spacers, the washer, and you put it through that cup, it's just not going to have any threads. So what I went with is a 1.5-inch M6 6mm by 40mm, and I guess you would call it like a button head. And here it is, again, next to the old bolts. So you could go with a 2-inch. Here's a closer look at it. Went with something a little bit more low profile because it's going to be up against a washer. Now you could go with black if you would like, or you go with matte, anything that you want. Basically, it's just whatever your hardware store has or whatever look you want to go with. And if you just have something laying around that fits, you could just go with that. Now I gotta admit, when I first saw these spacers and washers, there wasn't any instructions and I kind of felt like an idiot, but I wasn't 100% sure how these were properly supposed to be put on. So I messaged William and he responded right away, and he said that you want to put the washer over the bolt, then the bolt through the cup. So you can see here, now I'm putting the washer over the bolt, and here I'm putting the bolt through the cup. And then you want to put these spacers on behind the bolt. And then you're just going to want to attach it to your pinball legs. So the first thing to do is to take off your old bolts. Now, the way that I did it, I don't know if I would recommend. There's a lot of ways you could do this. You could prop your table up on a stool so all 4 legs are off the ground and take that first leg off. Or you can do what I did, and you can just kind of put your arm underneath of there and just put that spacer on, start that bolt, and then tighten it up. Now you can see I still got a gap there. So I'm putting the other spacer behind it, and then I'm going to start that second bolt and thread it in there. Now it wasn't that difficult, but you could also have someone lifting up, say, the middle of the cabinet just to get that, because it's going to put a little pressure when you take that one leg off and you've got still 3 holding on. So go ahead and tighten this, but you don't want to tighten it all the way, and I'll show you here why. When I put a level on there, you can see that it's not really level. So go ahead and get that nice and square, and then tighten everything up, and Bob's your uncle. Nice and level. So just for fun, I just thought I'd put a coaster in there just to catch any excess sweat from the glass. So I'm going to start off with a beer bottle and just show you how much space I have when my hands are on the flippers and the nudge button. And you can see there's well over 1 inch there, no issues whatsoever, very sturdy. Next, I'm going to put in a beer glass, and it gets a little bit tighter, but with your thumb on the flippers, there's no problem at all. Your pinky could end up maybe touching it if you're using the nudge button, but again, I like to use actual nudge and tilt the cabinet, so it's really not a big deal. So next we have a cocktail glass. It fits in there flush. This is probably my best scenario, and you can see with the sides being cut out, it's just perfect. You can access it. It works great. Now the reason for those spacers, I want to get back to that, is so you can have that space to get your drink away from the cabinet and those flippers. And I think that it does a pretty good job, and it doesn't look out of place at all. You can get a better view at it from the top here, and it's probably not quite a ½ inch gap, maybe just under that, but it's really nice. So here we got a standard Yeti cup, and this is about the same as the beer glass. No real issues whatsoever, maybe just a little bit with your pinky on that nudge button. Here's a smaller Yeti cup, and this one's perfectly fine. Now lastly, we have a large Yeti cup, and this is kind of where the issues come in. And I probably wouldn't be using a cup like this anyway, but you can see that my knuckles are touching the cup, and it's doable, but it's something that I wouldn't recommend. So finally, I just want to show you what it looks like from the front and from the side, just so you can get an idea of what it looks like installed. And I think it doesn't overpower the cabinet in any way. You know, you may think that it might be too big, but honestly, I think it is perfect, and I guarantee you it will get used quite a bit. So there you go, guys. There's a quick look at the Jack's 3D printed pinball cup holder for AtGames, Arcade1up, and full-size pinball. I will leave a link in the description if you're interested in purchasing one for yourself. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, make sure to please consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. All right, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching.